Tier list time, baby.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is Luke Mick here, per usual, bringing you another tier list video, and the sole focus of this list is going to be A24 and the films that they've released that I myself have seen. A24 is one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, current film production and distribution / acquisition company. I think they put out some of the cream of the crop, the best of the best for theatrical releases in this period of time in the year 2022. They've been around since 2013. I've been seeing their films theatrically since 2013. There are 47 films on this list here that I have seen that they have been responsible for releasing, and I'm going to rank them in this tier list format. You know the drill.
You know how these work.
Let's start with the first little section here, the bottom of the tier. We have Homeless Suitcase Pimp. These are for the worst movies. It's probably the greatest dig, the greatest burn you could give a movie. Moving up, we have Even Pastors Need a Pastor. These are films that I think had good ideas or just films that needed a little bit more guidance. They could have used a little more help to make them great or better. We have I'm Gonna Tear Up the Fucking Dance Floor, Dude. Check it out. These are films that think they're really hot shit. They think, yeah, we're really great, like we're going to be loved by all. They're films that have great ideas, but maybe don't fully realize them, or are films that I just felt didn't quite meet the greatness that I would have, hoped them to meet. And then up here we have They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. These are for the films that are almost perfect. They're very good, incredibly memorable, and just films that I will revisit quite frequently, or just left quite an impression on me. And then at the very top we have This Is How I Win. This is for the best of the best. These are some of my favorite films that A24 has put out, some of the ones that I've rewatched the most, and the ones that when I think of A24 releases, these are the ones that I hold to a very high regard. So that is the structure of the list, and I do want to mention before we start that I actually don't hate any of these films that you'll see down here. Admittedly, you will see some films end up in these like bottom two sections, but that doesn't mean that I don't like them. I would say that all of these films I would give at least 2 stars. I don't think there's any sub 2s on this list. So, I mean, like I said, A24 I think does choose to release and choose to produce films and ideas that are generally just better than, the main studio heads, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Disney. They really focus on the creative aspect of filmmaking, and I just think that each and every one of the films on this list, while some of them might not personally be favorites of mine, I think they do have some sort of cinematic value and some sort of, I guess, piece of filmmaking that differentiate them from a lot of other films that come out theatrically nowadays. So with that, let's get started with the very first one. And I will say also that these are listed in order in which they were released. So we're starting at the very beginning. One of the very first films they released, Spring Breakers. Spring Breakers, when that film was coming out, it was kind of a big deal because it was Vanessa Hudgens, who had already kind of broken out of the Disney fame, but also Selena Gomez in this like really edgy, really like hyper-sexual spring break movie, and it was just really weird to see Selena Gomez in particular in this type of role. And then you also had James Franco playing this weirdo drug dealer, spring break drug dealer. And I don't remember much about this film. I haven't rewatched it since I saw it in theaters. I don't remember being in love with it at all. I do want to check it out again and rewatch it because it has been so long. Although I did see Harmony Korine's The Beach Bum recently, which is his most recent release, and I didn't love that film either, so something tells me that I just might not be a huge Harmony Korine fan. So we're going to put this in Even Pastors Need a Pastor. I remember James Franco really chewing up the scenery and having a lot of fun, but this is definitely one that I need to revisit, and I think it's going to be kind of a common theme with these early films on this list, is because some of them I saw once theatrically, and that was, the last time I saw them. So I kind of have to dig back into my memory banks a bit to really figure out how I should be ranking these. The Bling Ring. Another very early film, of course. This one directed by, I think, Sofia Coppola. I don't think it's Gia. I think Sofia directed this one, and it had like Emma Watson in it, and I think Vera Farmiga's niece. What's her name? Tessa something. I don't remember. There Orlando Bloom is in it too. Sorry, I'm just like naming off the people that were in the movie. I remember this movie being very fast paced, very frantic, and a little bit annoying, and I truly haven't had the desire to rewatch this film. Spring Breakers I've considered and thought of rewatching over the years, but The Bling Ring is one that I almost could say I'd rather just forget. Maybe I should watch it again someday, but for now, it is gonna sit here in the homeless suitcase pimp category. Yeah, I don't know about The Bling Ring. The Spectacular Now. This was a Miles Teller and a Shailene Woodley film. It's a pretty standard, like, coming of age romantic drama. I don't remember it being too funny. I remember it being more dramatic. Who directed this? I think the director is the guy who did. Is it the guy that did the end of the tour? And he had a film at Sundance too. What's his name? I forget his name. This film really just didn't leave much of an impact with me. Again, I saw it so long ago, but I haven't felt the need to revisit it. Just from what I remember about it, it is a pretty standard, what are you going to do with your life after high school sort of movie. So I am going to put it in with Even Pastors Need a Pastor. I just don't remember anything particularly, I don't know, special or eye-opening about it. Enemy. This was a huge film for me when it came out, directed by Denis. I have this sneaking suspicion that I liked this movie a lot when it came out, but if I rewatched it now, I might not like it as much. I'm very worried to revisit it because when I saw it, it was a pretty big deal. It was the day before my 17th birthday, and in the United States, you have to be 17 to see R-rated films, and we went to an art house theater, so they didn't really care about age to see Enemy. But I just remember it being a huge deal. I was finally 17 and could finally get into R-rated movies without issues. I also had an enormous Jake Gyllenhaal bone at the time, and I still kind of do. I'm kind of a sucker for Gyllenhaal. But I am going to put it in. I'm going to tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out, because I feel like I'm just not going to be as wowed by it on a rewatch, but I definitely need to watch it again. I used to consider it one of my favorite films back in 2013, I think, when it came out, or it would have been 2014 when I was turning 17. So it came out theatrically 2014. Did I just say 2017? I'm saying too many numbers. It was a big deal when it came out. I loved it, but I'm like a little bit skeptical that I would really love it now. So it's going to go in the middle here. Under the Skin. This is a film that I have only seen the one time in theaters, and I remember feeling so strange about it. It's directed by Jonathan Glazer and stars Scarlett Johansson. I have to rewatch it. I really wanted to rewatch it for this video, but I didn't find the time in my schedule to rewatch this particular film. It is going to sit here in the middle for now, but I have a sneaking suspicion about this film that if I watch it now, I might like it a lot more than when I initially saw it. I just remember it feeling very quiet, feeling very isolated, and it is very strange because most of the people in it are non-actors from what I recall. Really interesting film that I need to go back and check out, but it will end up in the middle for now. The Rover. This was a really, really great film. This was Robert Pattinson's, I think one of his first like breakout roles after the Twilight films. You know, obviously he wasn't a very respected actor. No one really took him seriously. But I saw this film and I was interested that he was going to be in it because I thought he was just the Twilight guy. But this film is the one that really changed my perspective on Robert Pattinson. Not that I ever had like a negative, like I never hated the guy at all, but this was the one where I thought he's a good actor and people need to wake up and recognize his talent. So I know I'm talking about him the most, but this is a really great realistic post-apocalyptic drama that I thought had a very poignant ending. Guy Pearce is the lead, and I think he is really great. Definitely one of my favorite films that he has been a part of. and I am going to put it in the glazed into each other's eyes. I really loved this film when it came out. I have rewatched it a couple of times in recent years, and it still holds up as a film that I would highly recommend. Now we have Tusk. We have Kevin Smith directing, what's his name, Justin Long and Michael Parks. And this is a really fun film about a man who is going through the process of being turned into a walrus. It's really ridiculous. It has some great cameo performances. It was a lot of fun seeing this one in theaters. It wasn't playing really at any theaters in my area when it came out, except for the Mall of America. So one of the only movies I've ever seen at the Mall of America theater. Yeah, Tusk is a film that I've rewatched a couple times. Not a perfect film on a technical level, but just the novelty of it, I think, makes it worthwhile. I'm gonna put it in the middle here. I'm gonna tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out. I don't want to keep quoting that because that's kind of a long quote, so I'm just gonna keep referring to this as the middle. But yes, Tusk is a good film. Not for everyone, but I always really had fun with it. A Most Violent Year. This is, in my opinion, a really, really great film. I love how it is, it's a sort of gangster crime film. It's set in the 80s, so I guess you might consider it a period piece. Do you call films that are set in the 80s in the year 2022 period pieces? I don't really know. It feels weird using that term. But A Most Violent Year is a film that it has an incredible cast. Oscar Isaac in the lead performance. This is a film where I saw Oscar Isaac and I thought, okay, this guy's going to be a star too. He is just like magnetic in this film. And something I really, really like about A Most Violent Year is that it's so somber, it's so quiet, and it feels so grounded in reality. It's a gangster film, but it's like, they're not like Goodfellas gangsters. Like, I'm going to use Goodfellas as an example here, and I'm going to kind of oust it a little bit. But I get a little bit annoyed when films like Goodfellas they really try to treat the gangster life as like this glamorous thing, and it's very showy and very in your face. But this film, like I said, was always just so grounded, so dramatic, and just so realistic feeling. And the business that Oscar Isaac's character is trying to run in this film feels borderline. It's legitimate, but it's like borderline a little bit sketchy. And I just really liked the balance that this film walked when, I guess, looking at, this sort of East Coast gangster story. I always really liked this film, and I'm going to put it into the glazed into each other's eyes. A Most Violent Year. While We're Young, Noah Baumbach film, one that has a great cast: Ben Stiller, Naomi Watts, Amanda Seyfried, and Adam Driver. This movie really just resonated with me for some reason when I saw it. I actually caught it twice in theaters when it was out, because I saw it alone, I think, and then I wanted a couple of friends who also watched movies with me a lot to watch it with me, and it just was like a film that I just thought was funny, and I really liked Ben Stiller in it, as I generally do in a lot of other films. It's been a little while since I've rewatched this one. I'm trying to decide if I should put it in this one or this one.
Oh, that's hot.
I'm just gonna fuck around and put it in the glazed into each other's eyes. I don't know if I were to rewatch it right now, if I'd feel the same way, but just my memories of the film and just the amount of times I watched it for some reason, it has to go up here into the glazed into each other's eyes. Ex Machina, the directorial debut of Alex Garland. This is a really, really great science fiction film. It's gonna go here into the glazed into each other's eyes. It's been a little while since I rewatched it, but Oscar Isaac, again, giving a wonderful performance, same as Domhnall Gleeson and Alicia Vikander, if that is how you say her name, I think so. This was just a really tense film that is, I guess, looking into artificial intelligence and the potential fears and dangers of exploring AI and the impacts it can have. And it's just a really, really great thriller, very claustrophobic, and a great debut from Alex Garland behind the camera. Annihilation I also really liked, and I am very excited for the upcoming A24 film Men, also directed by Garland. So yes, Ex Machina up in this this higher tier here. The End of the Tour was a film that I saw, and I don't remember much about it. It's Jason Segel and Jesse Eisenberg, and I remember it being kind of depressing and very quiet and somber. I remember some of it was filmed in Minneapolis and at the Mall of America, which I thought was fun and kind of a novel thing at the time, being from Minnesota in that area. I am going to put it into I'm going to tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out. The middle tier. I said I wasn't going to quote that anymore, but here we are. It's going to end up in the middle tier because I know I liked it, but I don't remember enough about it. So I can't put it up here, and I won't put it down here, so it's going to end up in the middle there. Room, this was it got nominated for quite a few Oscars. I thought that for a long time the Academy Awards were just ignoring the A24 output, but I forgot or maybe didn't realize that Room was actually released by A24, and this one, I think, won at least an Oscar, I think. Jacob Tremblay, breakout role, young child actor who was really fucking fantastic in this movie. I haven't rewatched it, and something that was fun about Room is that I went into it not knowing what it was about. So there's a part in the middle of the film where everything sort of changes, and the whole, like, pace of the film really changes, and it's very good. I just haven't really watched it. I can't remember every detail about it. It's gonna end up in the middle here, but if I rewatched it, maybe it'd go up here. But really good performances in Room from both Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay, and William H. Macy too, I think, has an appearance in there. Yeah, Room is a very good film. I could almost put it up here, but just to be safe, I'm going to keep it in here. The Witch, when this was in theaters, it was one of the first, like, A24 is sort of notorious now for marketing their films in ways in which they is a little bit misleading. The Witch is a horror film. That's the way it was marketed, but it also is a very serious family drama, and a very tense one at that. I actually just rewatched it for the first time since theaters the other night with Nancy, who had never seen it before, and I like it quite a bit, but something about it feels almost too brief. Like, I was surprised at how quickly it wrapped up and finished. I had remembered there being more. I'm going to put it in B tier. It definitely has some pretty frightening moments. The set design and costuming and the dialect and accents are all incredible. It's a very, like, authentic and very unique feeling film, but it doesn't always, I don't know, it doesn't always leave me feeling fulfilled. So it's going to end up in the middle B-ish tier here. Krisha, the debut feature film from Trey Edward Schultz, really one of my favorite current modern day directors. I think that he makes incredibly tense films, and he is just so steady behind the camera. Krisha is a really incredible film. It stars his grandmother in real life, and a lot of his family members, actually. I think half of the cast is family and half are professional actors. A really interesting film that looks at the alcohol and just mental issues of this woman, this grandmother, this older woman in a family, and how she makes her family life incredibly chaotic. And it's a really claustrophobic, really intense film, and it has a protagonist whom you don't really know if you can trust. You can't really believe everything you see. It's a very, very intricate and interesting film, and it's honestly super well made for being a debut. I'm going to put it into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. It's a really interesting film that I would highly recommend, and it's really short too. It's a nice quick watch. Green Room is just a through and through amazing white knuckle thriller, incredibly intense. Patrick Stewart delivers an incredible villainous performance, and Anton Yelchin and Imogen Poots are both wonderful. It always makes me sad when I think of this film or rewatch it because of Anton Yelchin's passing. Anything I see with him makes me so sad. But Green Room is a film that I think holds up. It feels very old-fashioned. It feels very like 70s in ways, in the way that it's just filmed and how raw and gross it is. And it's going to go up into the glazed into each other's eyes for me. Really memorable film. The Lobster, I think the first Yorgos Lanthimos film I saw. I haven't watched it since theaters, actually, which I think is blasphemy. I really need to revisit this one because it left quite an impact on me. I remember the whole experience being very uncomfortable and perfectly Yorgos, and it was actually I think just the third date that Nancy and I ever went on. Our first date was Captain America Civil War, and then we went to like lunch. And then the third date was The Lobster, which is quite an interesting film for a third date, and I figured it would be that way. Yeah, good memories with The Lobster. It's going to go into the glazed into each other's eyes. I can't remember every single detail about what I love about the film, but I know it's one that has stuck with me over the years, and I just need to find the time and opportunity to rewatch it. Swiss Army Man, another film, this one directed by the Daniels, another one that when it came out, I really loved it. I think I considered it to be one of the top films of, was it 2016, the year it came out? One of my favorite films of that year, but I haven't revisited it since, so I don't remember every detail and every piece that I love about the film. I remember it being funny, super irreverent, and just visually really interesting and unlike most other things I had seen. And yeah, Swiss Army Man, I'm gonna have to comfortably or maybe uncomfortably put it into this middle tier here, just because I don't know how much I'll love it on a rewatch. We'll have to see. I know I really liked it when it came out, but for now it is gonna go in the middle here. Moonlight, the film that took the Best Picture from La La Land in the was it 2017? I don't remember which year exactly. Really good coming of age film. Just a very solid flick in general. I remember this was the first like big breakout Mahershala Ali performance. I think he won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars that year, and if he did, very well deserved. Really great supporting cast in this. This was again, it's one I haven't rewatched actually since I saw it in theaters, but I remember really liking it and being happy that it won Best Picture. I liked La La Land a lot too. But yeah, we're going to put this in the middle just because I don't remember feeling like super duper passionate or strong about it. But I remember being very, very good and being happy that it won Best Picture. Free Fire. This movie has a really large cast, and it's all set in one location basically, and it basically covers a gunfight. You know, everyone has a weapon. They lose a weapon. It's kind of like an action comedy. It's a unique idea for a movie, but I am gonna drop it into Even Pastors Need a Pastor just because, I don't know, it didn't really stick with me. I think I felt that it maybe drew the idea of the film a little too thin. I think that it needed a little bit more meat to make it into like a feature-length film from what I remember. And I also remember I got charged twice for the ticket on this movie at Regal and Regal Cinemas, and I tried to get the refund through their like support submission tool on their website, and I was never issued a refund. So I paid twice for this movie, which made me feel even worse because I was like, that was an okay movie. Plus, I had to pay twice. So yeah, Free Fire is going to get into the Even Pastors Need a Pastor section. It Comes at Night, Trey Edward Schultz's sophomore feature, his second feature film. Another one like The Witch that was heavily advertised as being a straight-up horror film, but really it is more of a family drama, a sort of infection and fear of sickness drama. Not so much of a horror film, more of a psychological drama. I remember really loving it and being so enamored with it and impressed by it. I know other people at the screening I was at were like, I think someone, once the credits started rolling, said, well, that sucked, which I didn't feel at all. I really loved it. I haven't watched it since. I need to revisit it, but really wonderful cast, really, really intense, made me feel maybe a little bit nauseous, just a really, really effective film for me. I am going to just fuck around and put it into They Glaze Into Each Other's Eyes. I don't feel like I remember enough about it to fully put it in there, but I'm just going to do it because this is my list. A Ghost Story, another film that I saw in theaters but haven't watched since, so my memory of every detail about the film isn't completely up to date, but it's another film that I really loved when I saw it. It's a very, very serene film. It's a very quiet film. It's
not for the faint of heart.
And when I say that, I mean people who don't like slower movies, because it is a lot of just watching interactions. There really isn't a lot of like tangible dialogue or story in it. It's a very interesting film. I think it's directed by David Lowery, who has another film that we'll be getting to in a moment. I'm going to put it in B tier because I kind of have this feeling like I have with Enemy, where if I rewatch it, I might not like it as much. It may only have like a sort of one and done quality to it, but I might be wrong. Maybe I'm not giving A Ghost Story enough credit. Loved it when it came out, but I haven't like felt the urge to revisit it, which is kind of gearing me towards putting it into this B tier here. Good Time. This one's easy. This is how I win. Good Time, directed by the Safdie brothers, the first film of theirs that I had seen. Another Robert Pattinson vehicle. Wonderful film, breakneck pace, incredibly, enormously anxiety-inducing. One of the most intense films that you will ever see, I think. Really great supporting cast, too. There are so many characters that come in and out of the fray of this film because Robert Pattinson's character, I can't remember his name, is constantly moving forward and moving on to the next thing. So just a complete beast of a film. Good Time is incredible. It's super, super fast-paced, very similar to Uncut Gems, which we will be getting to a little bit later in this list. Great score by Oneohtrix Point Never, and just a fucking amazing movie. Like, Good Time is cream of the crop, one of the very best in my eyes. The Florida Project, another really good film, as honestly most of these films are in my opinion. Directed by Sean Baker, and Willem Dafoe got an Oscar nomination for this one. Very well deserved. He's infinitely likable in The Florida Project. I'm going to drop this one in this middle tier here because rewatchability, I don't know how rewatchable this one is. I haven't seen it since theaters. That's kind of like the tune that I've been singing throughout this whole video, is it's been a while since I've watched it. But I remember the ending not being like my favorite part of it. I didn't really like the way the film ended. But overall, the whole experience of the film was incredibly unique. Lots of non-actors, which is sort of a staple of Sean Baker over his last decade of work. I haven't seen anything pre-Tangerine that he's done, but the 3 films of his that I have seen, the most recent ones, do have a lot of non-actors in them. But yeah, a very cool film, all set in basically one location, and actually a fun little tidbit is when I was in Florida a couple of years ago, Nancy and I actually went to the motel, or hotel, it's a motel, that this was filmed at. So I actually was, able to see the real location, and that was really cool. That was fun. So yeah, The Florida Project, it's going to end up in the middle. I don't own the Blu-ray yet, but I would like to buy it and rewatch it someday at some point. The Killing of a Sacred Deer, the second Yorgos Lanthimos film I saw, and this one's just gonna go up in the S tier because I loved this movie. I saw it once in theaters, and then I watched it maybe 2 or 3 times on Blu-ray after it came out. Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman, Barry Keoghan, the guy from The Batman and Eternals. He's kind of blowing up now, which is wonderful because this is a really early film of his. I saw his performance, and I was like, this guy is gonna make it somewhere too. Like, he's absolutely incredible in The Killing of a Sacred Deer. And, yeah, I'm glad to see that he is really blowing up in the realm of acting. But The Killing of a Sacred Deer, definitely, it gets comparisons to Kubrick, and I can definitely see that. The cinematography is very, very precise and perfect. The dialogue in this film and the delivery of the dialogue is otherworldly and very strange and awkward. Yorgos Lanthimos and Riley Stearns, another director who isn't going to be on this tier list because he doesn't have an A24 film, He did The Art of Self-Defense and most recently Duel. They both write or direct. I actually don't know if Yorgos wrote this, but their films feel very similar in that the social interactions are always incredibly bizarre and do not feel like they belong on our planet. So that's something I really like in both of their films, and it's something that really just gets me in The Killing of a Sacred Deer. So that is going to end up in This Is How I Win. Lady Bird, the directorial debut of Greta Gerwig, starring Saoirse Ronan. Really good film. I think I do prefer Greta's second directorial film, Little Women. I actually loved that, but that one was not produced by A24. Lady Bird is a great coming-of-age film. It has, again, a really good cast and a really good group of characters, and it's just a film that it feels very real. It feels very from the heart. I'm going to put it into the middle tier here, that I'm going to tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out. I haven't had the desire to go back and rewatch it, but it is definitely a film that I think is quite good. The Disaster Artist, the Tommy Wiseau, that's his name, right? Tommy Wiseau, The Room director movie, directed by and starring James Franco, Dave Franco, Seth Rogen is involved. I'm not a big fan of The Room, honestly. Like, it's pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy movie, but I feel like it is honestly a little bit boring. I don't love watching The Room. I guess I've only watched it once. And this movie, it's about a real life person, a very eccentric person, a very confounding person, and it's a movie about the making of a movie. And it really isn't one of the better movies about the making of a movie. I truly don't remember much about it other than behind the scenes of Seth Rogen arguing with people. I'm gonna put it into Even Pastors Need a Pastor. It's not the worst, but it isn't one of my favorites at all. Honestly, it could probably even go down to Homeless Suitcase Pimp. I'm gonna put it down there just because I think Bling Ring is a little bit lonely, and they need some of that Franco energy down there. So yeah, we're going to leave it down there. First Reformed, Paul Schrader. I think this may have been the first Schrader-directed film I ever saw, and it is one of my favorite films of his, and it's one of my favorite A24 released films, so it's going up into This Is How I Win. This is one of Schrader's most precise, most organized, most his creative juices were perfectly just dumped into this movie. Ethan Hawke gives one of the best performances of his career. The cinematography is just gorgeous in this film. I love the aspect ratio. I loved the sort of the cause of the mental breakdown that Ethan Hawke's character suffers in this film. There's just so much to love about First Reformed. I think it's just an incredibly it's a very scary film, in all honesty. First Reformed really does it for me, and that incredibly ambiguous, jaw-dropping ending is one that I'll never forget. And yeah, First Reformed is a fucking powerhouse of a film. Yeah. Hereditary, the first Ari Aster feature film. I think it's his first one. This thing gave me so much fucking anxiety when I saw it in theaters. The only thing that was ruined was that the theater I saw it in, there was a woman. She was a middle-aged woman, full-grown adult, acting like a schoolgirl. Her phone was going off. She was answering her phone. We were all shushing her the whole movie, saying, "Silence your phone, stop." And she just kept saying, "Sorry, sorry, sorry." And then she'd whisper, but a loud whisper to her boyfriend or whoever it was next to her. Kind of soured the experience for me. And I have not rewatched the film since, but I know that it really put me on edge. Really horrifying. Toni Collette's character basically just hates her son. And that's a really scary thing, to have a mother who hates you and literally just wants you to die. And that's this movie mixes in a lot of other occult horror themes and things like that, but the actual real family horror that is presented in this film is super scary, to me at least. So Hereditary is going into the glazed into each other's eyes, even though I'm like, I don't want to I just have not had the motivation to rewatch it, and it might be because that lady was just so annoying during it. So when I think of A24, like, I don't personally consider it to be like one of my very favorites, but it is a very good one that has to go into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes, just based on how much like actual fear it gave me after watching it. So yeah, really effective film. Eighth grade, I related to this film a little bit. The main character in this film is a YouTuber, and she makes like vlogs. She's in middle school. I think I was on YouTube. Yeah, was I? Actually, I don't think I was doing YouTube videos in my middle school years, but nonetheless, it's something I could relate to. It's not a film that I've felt like I wanted to rewatch. I don't own the Blu-ray. It's, to me, it's kind of like a one and done. Like, I saw it and I don't know if and when I'll revisit it. So it's going to go into the middle tier here. Mid-90s is Jonah Hill's directorial debut, and maybe the only film he's directed up until this point. It stars Sonny Sufjic, if that's how you say his name. I can't recall. It's the kid here that I'm shaking around. He was in The Killing of a Sacred Deer as well. This is a California skateboarding movie. It must take place in the mid-90s when Jonah Hill was an adolescent growing up. I liked this film quite a bit when I saw it in theaters. Haven't gone back to rewatch it. I remember the soundtrack being pretty great and just really enjoying a lot of the characters that were surrounding our lead character, Sonny, in this film. I just really liked it. It resonated with me. I can't remember every detail, and I'm trying to decide right now if I should put it into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes or the middle tier here. I'm going to drop it in here. I know I really liked it when it came out, but I'm not, like, remembering any, like, particular emotional... Well, now I am. Now I am remembering something. We'll put it up here. We'll put it into the They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes section. I think that's where it belongs for me. If I rewatch it, maybe it'll move down here. I don't know. We'll keep it in here, though. Climax, Gaspar Noé, the first film I had seen of his. When I first saw it, I would have said They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes, because it's a really, if you don't know what you're getting into, an incredibly anxiety-inducing, unpredictable, crazy roller coaster of a film. I rewatched it pretty recently after watching Irreversible for the first time, and because I knew what the sort of gimmick of the movie is and what the twist is, nah, fuck it. It's going into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes, because I actually love the way that this film introduces the situation and the characters, and the soundtrack is fucking banging. Climax is, yeah, that's a really good movie. Okay, yep, it goes into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. It almost ended up in this middle one, but I gotta keep it up there. Under the Silver Lake is a really, really complicated, kind of confusing movie. It's definitely like a stoner detective mystery movie. Andrew Garfield plays this like really spacey guy who lives out in LA, who meets a girl one night outside of his apartment or something, and then he thinks she gets abducted, and then he starts this entire investigation on his own and is like trying to figure out what happened to her, and he starts to like reveal a lot of interesting hidden societies within the LA area. I've seen it one time, and there's just a lot that happens in it, and it's kind of a long movie, and it's the director of It Follows. It was his second film, and it never really got a theatrical release. Like, it was supposed to come out. I think it got delayed a few times, and then I didn't see it until like many years after its initial release. I watched it on Amazon per recommendation from my friend Tyler, who really liked it, and it's a really... There's a lot in this film, and it's one that I definitely want to rewatch. Like, I think the rewatchability factor is very high, so it's going into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. That's a good film that I can't remember everything about it because so much happens in it. But Andrew Garfield really, really delivers a great performance. He really drives that movie. So yes, great one. I love that one. Midsummer. This is Ari Aster too. Okay, what is with my theatrical experiences with Ari Aster movies? Because Hereditary was kind of fucked up because that lady was texting and calling and laughing and whispering the whole time. But Midsummer, I saw it in a pretty packed theater on its opening night, and people were laughing. Like, spoiler alert for Midsummer, but the part when I think an elderly person, like, jumps off that cliff and mangles their legs, people started laughing. And I was, like, horrified, but then, like, half the theater was chuckling and, like, laughing hysterically. And I was like, why are people being so loud at this movie? Like, I felt like, again, the theater experience just kind of, like, ruined the mood for me, which sucks, because I feel like if I would have seen Ari Aster's films for the first time in, like, a perfect theater experience, or maybe even an at-home experience, it would have been fine, but the theatrical experience kind of ruined it for me. But thinking back on this film, thinking to that beautiful cinematography and the confusion that is being, I guess, given to all of the characters in this film, and how, again, like Hereditary, it is very anxiety-inducing. People are in an unfamiliar area, and they can't really get out, they can't get home, but everything around them feels so safe and inviting. Really interesting film. I'm going to put it into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes just because when I think back to the performances, Florence Pugh and Jack Rayner and everyone else involved, it's just a film that I think is one that really does stick with me, and especially that beginning, too. The beginning is horrifying and terrible, and it's just really a fucking kick to the gut start to a movie. So yeah, that's going to end up in that top tier there. The Farewell, another film that I have been, I've been kind of itching to rewatch this one lately. It stars Awkwafina, and it's a film about a grandmother who is dying, but the family does not want to let the grandma know that she's actually dying because they want her to live out her final months or years of life or whatever to her fullest potential without having to worry about the burden of knowing you're going to die. And I remember it being another, like, just, I think it's a directorial debut for Lulu Wang, or is it Wang? Sorry if I mixed up the pronunciation, but it's just a very, very good family drama. My girlfriend Nancy actually cried after the movie. She loved it. She'd probably put it up in This Is How I Win. I really like the cinematography. I actually really like Awkwafina's performance too. And yeah, this is a really good film. I'm going to put it into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. It's not one that I think back to as being like a very favorite of mine, but it's one that I think is so solid overall, and it has some pretty, like, funny moments, and I love the scene with all the balloons. Yeah, The Farewell is going to go right there. The Lighthouse, Robert Eggers' second film. I recently saw The Northman. I thought it was okay. Recently watched The Witch. I thought it was good, but not my favorite. I think The Lighthouse is my favorite film of his, but it is one that when I saw it, I was like, God, I need to watch that again. And I haven't watched it again since. I wanted to watch it the other night. That was one of Nancy and I's options, but we went with The Witch instead because she really likes Anya Taylor-Joy, so we watched The Witch. But The Lighthouse, I think it's definitely my favorite Robert Eggers film, and because I put The Witch in here, I'm going to put it into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. Another just amazing vehicle for Robert Pattinson to demonstrate his fantastic acting ability. Willem Dafoe, of course, cannot be forgotten because it's one of his career best performances. The cinematography, I think, out of all of Eggers' films is the best here. This movie looks like Vampire. It looks like a 1920s horror movie. Like, it looks like it was actually made in that era of filmmaking, which is pretty incredible. Nosferatu, it has that look, and I guess Robert Eggers is flirting with the idea of directing a Nosferatu remake, which is very interesting. I definitely support it after seeing his work over his last 3 films, although they did announce that they're looking at Willem Dafoe to play Nosferatu, which sounds great, but Willem Dafoe is so short, and Nosferatu is such like a lanky, tall figure that I don't really know how that would work. But yeah, that was a little side side discussion there that I just wanted to talk about because that's a thought that goes through my head a lot, but I don't ever like say it out loud. And it's good to say it out loud in front of the camera to all of you who are watching. So that's my thought on the next potential Robert. Is it Roger? Roger Eggers? No, Robert Eggers project. Waves. Another Trey Edward Schultz film. A24 put out and distributed all of his feature films at this point. This is going in S tier. I haven't rewatched it since theaters, but the soundtrack, wonderful. The direction and energy behind the camera from Trey Edward Schultz and some of the shots in this film, just amazing. The performances and the trajectory of the story, something that I thought was just really surprising and incredibly shocking, and just a really, really good family drama. Probably my favorite. I mean, it's in the S tier, in the This Is How I Win tier, so I think it's my favorite film by him. Definitely check it out. It really flew under the radar. It came out in like November of 2019, whichever year it came out, and I felt like it was really ignored, especially by like the Academy Awards. But yeah, really, really great drama. Uncut Gems. 2019 was a pretty hot year for A24, I will admit. Uncut Gems goes into the This Is How I Win. That's kind of where it belongs. I mean, this quote is literally from our man Howie over here. Similar to Good Time, just a relentless barrage of shit being thrown at you. Amazing music by One-A-Trick's Point Never. Just a conclusion that is perfectly fitting. A perfect introduction to the film. Kevin Garnett giving a really wonderful and kind of meta performance. Just an incredible, like, cast of characters surrounding Adam Sandler's just amazing powerhouse performance. Like, Uncut Gems is, in my opinion, like, just, again, like a lot of these other films in the top tier here, just a perfect film. Like, I love Uncut Gems. I feel like I could watch it whenever, and it's just fantastic. So, yes. Saint Maud. This is the most recent one that I have watched. I watched the Blu-ray just a couple of nights ago, and it's, I don't know, I felt like it didn't really leave me with much at the end. It has a really, really good jump scare, actually, in the middle and at the very end of the film. So definitely good jump scare uses. I did appreciate how it was, my girlfriend Nancy right now just got her nursing license, and she just started work. So congratulations, Nancy, if you're watching this. Congratulations, babe. And this film is about a nurse, and, something that Nancy and I have been talking about lately is nurses making mistakes and how much pressure there is and how scary and terrible it would be to make a mistake. And I got the impression in this film that the main character, Maud, made a very severe mistake, and that maybe led to the death of a patient in this film, which sort of sets her off on this complete mental breakdown that we see her go through in this film. Definitely very interesting from that standpoint, but I just felt like it didn't fully deliver on what I thought made it so interesting. I'm gonna fittingly put it into Even Pastors Need a Pastor, because of what I just explained. There were things I really liked about it, but overall it just didn't really leave me with much. Minari. This is another really great film starring Steven Yeun this time, and it was nominated for quite a few Oscars. I actually saw it at Sundance the week after it premiered, and I remember being so surprised that, maybe not surprised, but just like impressed and happy that like such a small movie like that at Sundance was all of a sudden getting like Academy Award nominations left and right. I think that the wife of Steven Yeun in this film gave the best performance, but she was snubbed from an Oscar nomination. Instead, the nomination went to Grandma, although I don't know if the Steven Yeun's wife character would have been in the supporting actress role. I think she's more of a lead actress, but I think she is like the emotional weight of this film. I really like Minari. I'm going to put it into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. It's a really, really great, down-to-earth
family drama
that is set in the 80s, I think. I don't think it's definitely not set in this period of time, in 2022. It's a great, like, American Dream movie. So that is Minari. Zola is a pretty fun film that has really wonderful performances. Story is a little thin, but that makes sense because it's literally mostly based off of a series of tweets. It's a fun watch. I would watch it again just for the energy that it brings to the table and the performances. I'm gonna tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out because it's a film that I think perfectly embodies this section. It like has a lot of great aspects, a lot of cool editing. But it's just a film that can only go so far because of what its source material is. So it's not something that I can say is like a perfectly compelling film, but it is a good experience. The Green Knight, David Lowery, starring Dev Patel. This film, if you want to see a really funny review for The Green Knight, go to Letterboxd and go to my friend Jermaine's page. I'll put his username up in front of the screen. His Red Rocket review is actually more of a review for The Green Knight, and it's a scathing review. He hates the movie. And I got a good laugh about what he wrote about. But I got a good laugh by what he wrote about in that review. So if you want to see a funny review for The Green Knight, check out his review of Red Rocket, actually. But The Green Knight is a film that when I saw it, my mental state was fucked. I won't explain why, but the morning after noon I saw it, it was after a pretty weird night. And so I still was feeling a little fucking weird when I saw The Green Knight, and I had a hard time following it, especially with the language that is used in the film. I really could have used subtitles, but I, unlike Jermaine, think I would actually really like this film if I rewatched it and maybe had subtitles. Really good supporting cast, again, like a lot of these films have. I'm gonna put it in here for now, but I have this sneaking suspicion that if I rewatch The Green Knight, I might put it up into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. Lamb, starring, what is her name? Noomi Rapace. And I don't know the rest of the cast. I don't know their names. This was the film where they have a child and it is a lamb. That's like a very A24 aesthetic, is a lamb child. This one really didn't do it for me. I'm going to put it in a homeless suitcase pimp. Like, when I look at all of these other films, it definitely is one of the ones that I found to be the least interesting. It left me with the least to really feel and think about. I felt like there were so many opportunities in this film to set up really tense and really interesting scenarios and issues, but it doesn't. It's like it just avoids all of the drama that it could have had to make it more compelling. So Lamb is going to go into the bottom tier. Come On, Come On, this is directed by, is his name Mike Mills? I don't think I had seen another film from him before. I recently talked about a lot of these films on my 2021 films tier list, so I won't say much. I'm going to put it into the B tier. If you want to hear me talk about it a little more, check out my previous tier list video that I uploaded in January of 2022, very beginning of the year, but it's going to go right in the middle here. It wasn't a film that I felt like incredibly connected to, but it's pretty good. The Tragedy of Macbeth. This did not do it for me. Generally, I really like the Coen brothers. This was just one Coen. I don't remember. I think it was just Joel who did this one. This was a film that from like an aesthetic and cinematography standpoint, I thought was perfection. It's beautiful, but everything else about it, the very, Shakespearean performances, the way it took itself so seriously, and just the confusion I felt with the dialect just was not fun for me at all. I found it to be just such a drag and just too standard, in all honesty. So that one also is going into Homeless Suitcase Pimp. Not a horrible film. Again, like I stated at the beginning of this video, I don't hate any of these films. But compared to the rest of these, The Tragedy of Macbeth was just kind of for me. Red Rocket is one of my favorite A24 films. I recently rewatched it in the month of April with some friends of mine after I saw it in theaters. It's amazing. Sean Baker really knocked it out of the park. He hit a grand slam with this one. Simon Rex, his performance is electric. It is so just grimy and gross, and he's such a fucking sus-ass figure, and the supporting cast around him, a lot of them non-actors, are incredible. It's a really raw film. It's incredibly, it leaves you feeling very uncomfortable, but in the end, you sort of, I don't know, I guess people get what they deserve in this movie. It's a really interesting look at the life of this incredibly chaotic and terrible person. Red Rocket is a perfect film, I think, and yeah, I love it to death. It's funny, but it's also, it gives you like uncomfortable, awkward laughs too. I love Red Rocket. X, directed by Ty West, his first, I think, A24 distributed film. Not my. I wish it. I didn't talk about this film on the channel, did I? I said I might, and I guess this is my opportunity to do that. I felt like. I don't know. I almost felt like they gave too much personality and too much character to the murderers in this movie. Like, I felt like they had too much motivation, or we had too much of an understanding of what they did or what they were choosing to do. It's a film that's very similar to the 1970s, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that film is so horrifying because the reason the people in that film are doing what they're doing is because they're fucking cannibals and they're terrible and they know they can get away with it and they're inbred for life, and it's just horrifying and terrible. But X was a film that I felt like it humanized the villains too much, and I felt like it didn't really deliver on some of the kills of the main cast in this film. Like, it's a slasher. Most of the characters that you are going to see as the protagonists are going to die, and it just I don't know, I liked it overall, but it left me wanting more. So I'm going to put it into this middle tier here. And finally, Everything Everywhere All at Once, everyone's favorite movie, or at least a lot of people's favorite movie, recently dethroned from the #1 spot on Letterboxd. It's number 3 as of right now, as of last night, I think. I really liked the film. I'm going to put it into They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes. I need to rewatch it to determine if it will go any higher than that. But it is just a super fun film. Definitely my favorite part, and I wrote a review on Letterboxd, is, I'm going to butcher his name, Ki Hwan. I probably said that completely wrong. Short Round from Indiana Jones. He's my favorite part of the film. It's so incredible that he, acted in 2 very iconic roles in the 80s and then basically did no acting for years, and then comes back in this film all of a sudden with another instantly iconic and memorable role. He's so much fun in this film, and so is Michelle Yeoh, of course, who very, very seemingly effortlessly drives this film and manages its direction. And it's just a film that is relentless. It's a complete attack on the senses. It has very poignant and powerful themes that I think are very well realized by the end of the film. And I love that, like, one of my favorite parts of this movie is the beginning. I love the first, 15 minutes before things even go completely crazy. The amount of, just hectic situations in the breakneck speed of the film in the first 15 minutes is it really got me on board and really got me into gear for what the rest of the film was going to deliver on. And the editing is absolutely insane. I don't know how anybody edited this movie. I know a lot of people are saying that, but there's so much in this, and it all is glued together in the most, feasible way possible, it seems. So yeah, it's going into the They Glazed Into Each Other's Eyes, but maybe someday it'll enter This Is How I Win. But I do not see it entering into the I'm going to tear up the fucking dance floor, dude, check it out tier. So that is my tier list. Here you can get a nice big look at it. That is how I would rank everything. Yeah. Let me know down below what you all think of this list and how you would rank these, what some of your favorites or least favorites are. Do you disagree with me on some of these things? I have a burp coming up, but I'm not going to let it out. But yes, that is everything. I'm really happy I was able to do this video. I've been wanting to do it for like a month or 2 now, and I finally am doing it. So yeah, that's everything. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate that all of you watch so very much. If you liked this video, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content in the same vein as this sort of stuff. And that's all I have for you. Thank you all so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you all later.